C2 Wrestling, we are back. SmackDown is wrapped up. We are 1 week away from Saturday night's main event, 2 weeks away from the Royal Rumble. But SmackDown, 3 hours, a lot of stuff. We'll hit the big topics.
hmm
There's some big ones to come from tonight.
Absolutely.
I'm mainly glad, though, we are fully shaping out Saturday night's main event a little bit better with stuff that makes sense.
hmm
Nice to see Jacob Fatu getting a marquee singles match.
Yeah, that's maybe the biggest thing to come out of tonight is that Jacob Fatu is getting a big singles match on a PLE live event, primetime TV, whatever you want to call it, and that's fantastic for Fatu. Strowman is a good name to have against Fatu as well. I think that's a great name for Fatu to go over. Same kind of rub that Bronson Reed got. Fatu. It's interesting because I kind of like the stable and I want the stable to continue, but it's kind of just time for Fatu to break out as well. Maybe this leads to the eventual Fatu solo match potentially at WrestleMania. Solo coming out, not cutting a promo today. Don't quite know where it's going, but we're gonna find out.
Yeah, let's just get into it. We have promoted the solo promo.
Mm.
Comes out, doesn't say anything. Fatu actually on the mic like crazy,
So
sounded like a million
crazy.
bucks because he is fantastic at everything he does.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I do feel like there should be kind of a little bit of a scramble maybe for Solo to enter the Rumble,
Yeah.
because Roman's still in the Rumble as well. It's expected, I should say. Like, I think we were expecting kind of a mopey Solo storyline or like a killer Solo storyline. I think my biggest thing with it, which we have mentioned before, I do like the stable. I do think there's plenty left to do with them. If it's setting up a Solo Jacob one-on-one match at Mania, neither of them being face does anything for me.
Yeah, Fatu is definitely a heel. Solo, I don't think is quite in that position to turn face. I don't think it would get over well with the fans. Um, he's a heel. They're both heels. I don't think it's the time for the singles match. I agree, but again, I want to see Fatu kind of break out. I want to see more of him. Him getting the singles match at Saturday Night's main event is great. Like you said, the card is starting to shape out a little bit. Still a little bit kind of thrown together. I don't know if it's quite got the star power that first card had, but getting Fatu on there is a surprise that I like. I'll take it. Did not expect that.
Neither did I, but given tonight Solo's lack of promo, you assume he's going to have a Mania match that's a relevant match.
Yeah.
And it feels that Fatu would be that if it is a singles. I could still see the story being Solo's kind of out of whack and Fatu and Tamatanga kind of get him back into it, and we inevitably get the multi-man match of them versus Jimmy and who knows, whatever. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that's like guaranteed to happen. I just I can't buy in on Solo versus Fatu at Mania. I mean, Mania is like 90 days away, and
Yeah.
like they're both too much of heels and not needed as faces that I can't buy in on this is the start for the Mania story.
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to tell still, even though we're kind of in that mania season. We got a new entrant to the Royal Rumble tonight in Rey Mysterio. I maybe they go the route where they don't announce Solo. I don't know if they're going to run it back, but maybe Solo just enters the Rumble and eliminates Roman. Who knows where they're going with Solo at this point? I like you said, the Moby storyline, I guess, makes sense. It was either going to be a killer Solo or a Moby Solo. I thought it would be more killer though. I thought Solo would kind of come back and kind of double down a little bit, or maybe go just as hard after somebody else or something. It was interesting to see the no promo, but I'm looking forward to it. I like this new bloodline. Weirdly, Tongaloa gets a lot of hate, online, but it's a better 3-man stable. Tonga Fatu Solo. It looks better. It feels better. I kind of like it that way.
Yes, and I'll also add that if they are going to give a new arc of Solo and the in the trio, I would hope that the direction is away from the Usos and Roman, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be, considering they attacked Jimmy tonight and then Solo came out. Wouldn't be shocked if they cost Jay the world title at Saturday Night's main event next week. Like,
Yeah.
would be very on brand for it to happen. I just, my interest with them, I want them to stay together, but I want them to do something besides feuding with the Usos and Roman still.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It is definitely getting a little bit old. I think the culmination at the latest will be Mania 41. There's so many iterations of 6-man tags, singles matches, tag matches you could do between all these Samoans out there. And I think we're going to get one of those matches eventually. And hopefully that's the end of it. You know, I want it to end now. Hopefully, maybe it's one more thing and then we're moving on from it. But who knows?
Moving on, we will do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Big night for the women.
Yep.
U.S. women's title showcased in story. Tiffany Stratton obviously retains the women's tag titles. I don't think it was I think it was a non-title match, but they picked up a
Yeah.
win. But one of the biggest women, one of the biggest names, the vignette hit. A little bit surprising. 2 weeks away from the Rumble, we get a vignette for the return of Charlotte Flair. Would have fully expected her to be a surprise Rumble entrant. Piece of me thinks you do this because she's not going to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's maybe still returning in the Rumble, but I think maybe you run a couple of vignettes and then she pops up in the Rumble, but she gets eliminated by wherever her Mania feud is going to go. Potentially. Maybe she doesn't win, but still gets a Tiffany Stratton match at WrestleMania. I think that's money, to be honest. It's kind of the route you have to go is Charlotte versus Tiffany. Does Charlotte need to win the Rumble for that? Not necessarily. If not Charlotte, I don't know who the hell you have win that Rumble, to be honest. There's some names tossed around, but there's nobody off the top of my head that is like the next pick. I guess EO, but part of me says Charlotte still just wins the Rumble.
Yeah, or the Chamber. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think Nia Tiffany rematch has to I say rematch. They haven't had a one-on-one match. That has to happen, but that does not feel like a Mania match at all. Like that feels
No.
like a Chamber match or maybe even a Rumble match, even though it's, kind of sooner rather than later. Probably fits better on the Chamber or the SmackDown right before the Chamber. Doesn't really do it for me for Mania.
No, it doesn't. Honestly, with the current storylines, still expecting Jade to come back, feud with Bianca. You'd imagine they're tied up. Maybe Naomi's in the mix there. Bailey, I really don't know what they do with Bailey. Bailey might not be on the Mania card this year if her current
Well,
projection.
you got the mid card titles too, so
Yeah,
Bailey
yeah,
could be going for
squeeze
the
in.
U.S. title at that point.
Yeah, could squeeze in somewhere else like that. That is true. But the main championship, that women's championship, again, just Tiffany Charlotte is the only match that makes sense on that SmackDown side. I'm not even looking any further than that. That's like locked into me. That might be the most guaranteed match at WrestleMania for me.
Yeah, I mean, looking kind of at all the women, I think
Mm-hmm.
if EO were to win the Rumble, which not saying that's going to happen, I think there's a good chance she does because that probably makes the most sense for Rhea's storyline. But again, two faces, is that going to happen? If that's your match, if not, it's probably Becky Rhea. I guess,
God.
rematch the following year. You look at SmackDown, like the options feel a whole lot slimmer. If Bianca wasn't a tag team champion and in this story, she'd be an easy name where you're like, oh, she's a big enough name. She could win the Rumble, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Bianca Tiffany. She's in that mix. Jade's in that mix where they're pretty occupied. So you start looking at the big names. Bailey just lost to Tiffany tonight. She's not going to go for it or win
Mm-hmm.
it. And she won the Rumble last year. It really feels like it's Charlotte or nothing.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I think this year for the women is the year where you kind of have the opportunity to throw a curveball and have like a random win and go after Rhea and the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw. I said this on one of our recent videos, but I think Jordan Grace, obviously coming over to WWE at some point. is a great name to maybe be a surprise win in that Rumble. Bianca, she hasn't even had a direct feud with Rhea in a long time. I expected her to kind of get in that mix eventually, but I don't know if the Jade injury is legitimate at this point. I still have no clue what her actual situation is, but Bianca Jade takes up a Mania match. Tiffany Charlotte takes up a Mania match. Rhea versus whoever takes up a Mania match. Tag titles maybe stay off the card. Maybe you get one of the women's mid card titles in. It's hard. You're probably gonna have what 14 matches between two nights,
I,
16 matches maybe.
I could see a Becky Lyra Valkyria for the IC title. I could see that
Yeah,
being a Mania match,
yeah, I could see that.
establishing that title.
I wouldn't be surprised if this year the women get the mid card gimmick match, like a women's six women ladder match, whatever you want to make it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. The Rumble, though, shaping up to the Rumble. Charlotte returns, wins the Rumble. It almost just doesn't do it for me, though. Like the women that have won the Rumble, not to sit here and hate on it, but it's been the most like typical women that would win the Rumble. Every year they've gone through the four horsewomen essentially of winning the Rumble. Rhea's got to win, Bianca's got to win. It's been the main crop of women. It would be a little bit of a curve if and Naomi even won it or something. It'd be a little bit of a shakeup. I just can't escape Charlotte winning it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem is history tells us she's only ever going to be in title feuds, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's the big thing. Moving on to our last bits of SmackDown, the tag titles continue to heat up. As we've said, even though the Machine Guns won, now they have to face Pretty Deadly. It's either going to be Machine Guns DIY, and that's like the last match that gets added to Saturday night's main event, or it'll be a three-way, possibly. I could see that being in the mix. But announced for Saturday night's main event, besides Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman, is a contract signing between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, where they will relinquish their titles before the ladder match the following week. I hope this doesn't take the place of a fourth match.
Yeah, the contract signing at a PLE premium live event, primetime TV, again, whatever you want to call it, it's a bit strange to me. I don't know. I think you definitely could have kept that on SmackDown literally 24 hours prior to Saturday night's main event and squeezed in a Shinsuke match or a tag title match like we've been asking for essentially. Again, I've been on the record that this Saturday night's main event is squeezed in between a big Raw and a big Royal Rumble, and they're kind of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And there's some decent matches on the card. Again, I'm happy to see Fatu on there. Gunther versus Jay, they're running it back. I'm sure it'll be a great match. Never mad at seeing my boy Gunther out there. Our boy Gunther, C2's boy Gunther. The one and only. But I don't know. Something about the Saturday night's main event. It's different a contract signing. It does lead me to believe that maybe we get something big during it. Like we get like a stadium brawl between Owens and Cody. They're fighting through the fans. Maybe Owens jumps off something crazy. Who knows? I just don't know if I expect it to be a cookie cutter contract signing 10, 15-minute segment. Weird.
Yeah,
Weird
I mean
placement.
you get Shawn Michaels on, that might help a little bit with the viewers because obviously he's pretty much a
Old.
household name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, last thing actually I wanted to mention before we got out of here. Carmelo Hayes and Jimmy Uso one
Yep.
on one. No finish because of the interference. Was seeming like Jimmy was about to win. I did like Carmelo did not eat the pin. They
Yes.
they did the DQ. Normally I'm against all these DQs, and that's pretty much like the bloodline MO.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But Carmelo had a good showing, doesn't get pinned, obviously still is very much a heel. I'm hoping there's more of that so he has something Mania time. I wouldn't bank on it, but if they do a multi-person for the IC or US or whatever, he's absolutely going to be in the mix.
Yeah, I think that's where Carmelo fits the mix for Mania this year. Carmelo is on he's been sprinkled around. He's on every week. It's very light, nothing crazy, but his trajectory is through the roof. The way they're building him, just kind of making him a heel every week. Every week they're just doubling down on Carmelo, making him a little bit more of a heel, coming out, talking trash. People love it. People hate it. It's great. I want more Carmelo, as much Carmelo as we can get. Would love to see him involved at WrestleMania. Absolutely think he fits the bill for a multi-man match. I don't know if he's got a singles match, at this WrestleMania, but I need him on that card. I do got to bring up, this is a little bit off topic, but the Royal Rumble, it's in Indianapolis. Pat McAfee.
What about him?
Are we really going to see Pat McAfee enter the Rumble again and Corey Graves enter it and then throw Pat McAfee over in Indianapolis?
That's a possibility. That I did not think of that.
Yeah, I didn't think of it. And then I was watching the show tonight and I see the commentary team and it made me think of Corey Graves. And then they ran the Royal Rumble promo and it said Indianapolis. And I was like, shit. They're working us. They're working
Yeah.
us. We're getting ribbed right now.
Yeah, that's a great card. Hey, if it happens, people,
C2 wrestling, baby.
it was said here first. So that's going to do it for SmackDown review. Ton of stuff coming up on the channel. Next week, we're live for Saturday night's main event. Before that, Raw review, other videos, entering the vaults dropping. You got to be subscribed, turn on notifications. The following week is the Royal Rumble. We will be live for it, losing our minds. It is probably, I mean, it is the number 2 PLE of the year. Mania is the big dog, but to get to Mania, you gotta go through the Royal Rumble, and we're live for it. So you gotta be tapped in. Subscribe and turn on notifications and leave a comment. Who do you think's winning the women's Rumble? Who do you think's winning the men's Rumble? Is Snowden right about Pat McAfee getting tossed out by Corey Graves?
Been right before, but I've also been wrong a lot more. So we'll see. But for now, Snowden, CTD, C2 Wrestling.